Hello, welcome back to 23 Days of Astrology with Marjorie. This is day 5, chart rectification. And today I have a quick video for you and chart examples on what to do if a client comes to you for a consultation and they don't have their exact birth time. And they say something like, I was born after lunch but before dinner, or I was born around sunrise, and things like this. These are things that happen more frequently than I thought they would before I was practicing. So I felt like I needed to come up with a strategy that was useful and helpful um, for me to like get a system down on how I would handle these. Okay. So we're going to work with the chart example of Trevor Hall. And if you didn't see my previous video, day 14, I talked about, it was like the third or fourth in a series of the moon through the houses. And I used his chart to illustrate the moon in the 11th house. Spoiler alert, this one's his chart, but I was going to tell you that in a second anyway. So if you're interested in Trevor Hall and lunar placements, you might want to go check out that video. Okay. So this is an example I chose because I thought it was a good one for the purposes of getting into chart rectification. So Trevor Hall was born in the morning around 7:06 a.m. So this on the left, what you're looking at is the correct birth chart. So on the right-hand side, I kind of made up this imaginary situation where if your client comes to you and they're like, I was born around sunrise or just before or just after sunrise, but I'm not exactly sure what time. So this is kind of how you would do it. You would pull up the chart that was pretty much on sunrise. And then if they were like, maybe it was just before or around sunrise or very close to sunrise, like these are things that people will say, like around lunchtime or around dinner time. I'm not sure if it was right before or right after. I hear a lot of stuff like that. So this is the actual chart. And then this chart on the right is one where I just knocked it back a couple of hours because every couple of hours is when the ascendant line or the sign who sits on the first house or the ascendant would click and spin the wheel. So this one features a Scorpio rising and this one features a Sagittarius rising. So I just backed it up like a couple of hours. So the one on the right is like a 5 a.m. and the one on the left is like a 7 a.m. So this is my process. When a client comes to me in this kind of a situation, what I do is I pull the two possible charts. Um, Another reason why this happens more often than I thought it would is sometimes if I get like a really late degree descendant, like say 29 and some change, and I pull the chart and I'm like, oh, I'm not really sure for whatever reason. I know the person or just have a feeling, or it's just too close for me to be comfortable. There's a strong possibility that their rising sign may be off. If they were born just a few minutes later, it would have changed. So in those instances, I employ this method as well. Okay, so what I do is I pull the two charts and I sit with them, and then I come up with two sets of statements, which I have here. I call one set A and I call one set B. And I send an email to the client with both sets, not the charts. I just send an email with words. And I say, I'm trying to determine, trying to hone in on your birth chart time to make it most accurate for the reading. And I've studied both charts. I have two sets of statements here for you. Read over them and respond back saying which set you identify with most. There will only be one, and you will be sure. That's how I word it. And it's always worked very well so far. Okay, so set A. So I go like this, set A. And then these are statements that correlate to this birth chart. And I keep them really high level, but I try to make sure that there are statements that would really resonate with somebody with these placements. So for example, set A, my life path is focused on the development of self, cultivation of identity, or learning to assert or humble myself. So this is very much speaking to the sun in the first house. Um, An extension of that first bullet is this is related to expanding my mind through travel, study, and spirit. This is because the sun in the first house is tied to the ninth house of Leo. That's the sun's home. The ninth house is the place that deals with expanding the mind through travel, spirit, and study. So that's pretty basic right there. The next one is speaking to the moon. So community, both building and cultivating it, is very important to my daily routines. Right here, this moon up here in the 11th house of Libra. Speaking to community, speaking to the importance of it in someone's daily life, because the moon can speak to those daily circumstances in our environment that we live in. And lastly, for this chart, I am a seeker at my core, really touching on that Sagittarius rising. So it's real simple. Like sometimes I want to say like 40 things in this statement, but I'm like, I think it's easier if you just keep it very basic, like a sentence or two about possible sun moon rising combinations. Um, and I feel like that's all you really need. Sometimes when you're working with a wider time frame, I do ask for like important dates, like marriages or times you've moved or had children. They can inform a story that needs a little more clarification. Okay, so that's set A. Set B, this is the other chart. This one would include these statements. My life path is focused on the gathering of resources, both financial and those that lend to the development of self-esteem. This is speaking to the sun in the second house. I mainly do this, what I just said, um, gathering those resources through my career and reputation. That's because the sun is tied to Leo, and Leo is in the 10th house in this chart. That's the place of career and reputation. So, this cultivating of resources is tied to the visible piece of this person in the world. I'm more comfortable in solitude than I am in community or groups. So this is speaking to the moon in the 12th house now versus the 11th house of alliances. 12th house can be a place of solitude, and you can really find joy in solitude by being alone. Sometimes people might be more comfortable in that kind of a position. And I am a protector at my core. This is speaking to the Scorpio rising. So this is what I would do, and I would send it out and say, "Let me know." One should really stick out to you. It should be very clear, and then they respond, and then we move forward with that chart. And it has always worked out in a really good way. And I like to do this even when I'm like, I'm just not 100% sure, because once you get into the chart and you start working with all the transits or timing techniques or really getting into the details of it, you want to make sure that you're working with the most accurate chart or something that is close to the house alignments for your client. So I hope this was a useful exercise and example for you. And I also want to say that when working with famous people's charts, I really come at them as a teaching tool. I like them to support students and practitioners in understanding how astrological symbolism can come to life in real life examples. And it's really important to me that I handle famous people's charts with care and respect. And I hope that that comes across in the way that I work with their charts in my examples that I share with you. So thanks for being here today, and I'll see you tomorrow for day 16. Bye.